And hundreds of people evacuated tonight after a fire breaks out in the heart of downtown. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Phil Anaya. The fire caused a brief scare especially for about 200 people inside a bar next to a high-rise under construction. About 14 fire units were dispatched to St. Mary Street right next to the Esquire Tavern. There's a high-rise being built and fire officials say flames broke out on the top of the 6-story concrete building. There was some concern some of the debris might fall onto the roof of the Esquire Tavern, which is what prompted that evacuation for about 10 to 15 minutes. Thankfully, no one was hurt. The fire department is investigating the cause of the fire, but so far they believe it was an accident.